Well, that was a pretty good match by Tina. She played it well. She got a double early when Debbie Wood was in all that trouble and opened up a big lead of 44 pins. She ended up going on to win by 23. So Debbie Wood made a good comeback, but left her run a little bit too late. And quite a parochial crowd here from various places, and West Australia getting a good round of applause there for a win by Tina.
So the next will be a men's semi-final we're about to see.
Yes, and this is David Wield, and boy, does he ever wheel that ball around. He treats that ball like it's a piece of confetti. It's a 16-pounder, and what a nice guy he is. Always smiling, always has a joke to tell, and this is a big moment for him. It's certainly the best performance of his career to get to third in the South Pacific Classic. But while we're talking about David and having a look at him, he did have the highest average this year in the centre finals around the country, Debbie, a 220 average for 16 games. And boy, look at that ball.
It's a very strange action.
Yes, it is an unusual action. He bowls what we call a figure eight. Well, there's his record, the 84 Clayfield Cup, the 84 Milton Invitational, and his league average 197 with the highest game ever of 233. Well, our next finalist, our semi-finalist, is Paul Madden of Victoria, and Paul has been in the tournament before. He finished third a couple of years ago when the finals were being held at the Bankstown Bowling Centre, and he's been a bit of an indifferent performer this week. He opened up brilliantly with a 235 and a 253, then faded the next couple of days and then came good again. Well, that's his record. He won the 1977 Melbourne 10-pin Cup, and he was the 1985 VCBA Bowler of the Year. His current league average is 193. Now we're ready to go in the match, and David Wield will take off on the even-numbered lane. And I don't know if I could predict a winner here. David made a great comeback in the final game of the match play today to take a win with a 221 score and sneak in to the position that he's in now, which is third. He was gone for all money, but came up and just beat Terry Wenban, who finished fourth. Both of them opening up with strikes. This, of course, is a two-game match. Total pinfall will decide the winner. 2 games, so it's all academic. If they win or lose, they just have to, each game, they have to knock over the most pins in these 2 games. And let's have a look at this. Look at that, figure eight, it's called. And he really sends that ball way out to the right. And more often than not, it'll come back into the pocket. Well, he looks pretty cool about it, doesn't he?
Certainly does.
But he's got a great attitude, David. He's got a good outlook on life, and in the tough situations in tough centres such as Rushcutter Bowl, that's what you need.
And I already sense that he may be a bit of a favourite with the crowd here. The reaction to his first strike was pretty good.
Yes, it certainly was. Let's see if he can get this spare. That's a tough one to go for a big hooking bowler, but he got it.
You can hear that crowd reaction probably, even just for that
yes, look
spare.
At that. Way he gets out of it, and he's what we term a cranker. He cranks the ball, whereas Paul sort of lets it get out of his hand pretty easily, but he too has somewhat of a strange backswing. We'll have a look at both of these styles during this next couple of games, because they're both quite different, but both excellent exponents of the sport.
Obviously fairly effective to have gotten them to this stage, the semi-finals of the Australian Airlines South Pacific 10-pin Bowling Classic.
Well, that was such a cold 10-pin wrap. That one came out of Antarctica. That should have been a strike for a long time, but it wasn't. He left the 10-pin standing. So Paul Madden now with a chance to take a 1-pin lead if he can get a strike on this shot. Looks pretty good. Good result.
The winner of this semi-final goes on to play Len Hogg, who's impressed everybody. here with his performances this week, so it's going to be a tough nut to crack when they...
Oh, we got the spare. Well, we've got to have another look at that. That is the closest spare I've ever seen on television. Oh, boy. He's laughing. And let's have a look at it now. The ball's going to the gutter. It's going to fall into the gutter. Does it? Oh, boy. Well, you'll never see anything like that again. It's taken 25 years for me to see it like that once. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So, both bowlers a 9 and cleaning up for the spare on the second in that frame. Looking again, David Wield, 9 again for his first delivery.
The loser of this match gets $1,700 and third place in the South Pacific Classic. So good incentive for the bowlers. The winner, of course, goes on with a chance to win a trip to Copenhagen, Denmark for the Bowling World Cup later this year. Well, David Wield going for the 6-pin. That's on the left-hand side of the approach that he stood for it, because the pin's on the right. Always a good tip for new bowlers is to stand on the opposite side of the lane to where your pins are in the spare setup. You notice Paul moving all the way across towards the ball return there. He's going to try and put the ball in between these two. I think he's done it. Yes, a good spare. Slight change of direction to the spare that we saw Tina Peake get, that same spare. She hit it on the other side. Let's have a look at the way to do it. Well, he put the ball in between those two pins. We're back with David Wield now. He's a pin ahead, going into the top of the 5th. Oh, and he'd be quite pleased with that last pin being knocked out of the way there. 7 count gives him 75, and Paul Madden can take the lead. And the winner of the first game does have a psychological lead, Debbie, because you've got that win up your sleeve, so to speak, and you've got a couple of pins up your sleeve to play with. And you certainly do have that psychological advantage. This is a tough one for David Wield, though. He'll need to be accurate here. No trouble. And good sportsmanship being displayed throughout the South Pacific Classic this week. Clapping each other's hands there on the spare. They both know that they're both under the whip, and they're both trying to survive, I think, the pressures of this first semi-final match of the men's division. Following this, we'll have the ladies' final, in which the first match will feature Jeanette Baker-Flynn against Sue Rafael of Victoria. And the winner of that match will meet Jo Ellen Day for the Women's Championship of 1986. Well, Paul Madden's taken a nice lead there with that double. Strikes in the 5th and 6th for Paul Madden. That's something that doesn't happen too often to a man who throws a ball that hooks as much as David Wield. He left a 5-pin in the middle of the deck, but he's bowling such an extreme inside line, and by that I mean he's inside of the middle dot and the middle arrows, the range finders on the lane, that he doesn't usually leave those, but well, you can see where the ball's going. Yes, Rushcutter Bowl has broken a few hearts this week. Certainly a tough tournament venue. Well, Paul Madden now. Great shot of his starting point from our front on camera, perched high above the lanes, about 25 feet above the lanes, to get this front on shot. That's a better shot by David. Good result for him, but he's falling into arrears. He needs to get some strikes. He started out with a strike in the first frame, but he hasn't found another one since. He's about 12 pins behind, providing Paul gets this spare. And Debbie, that's the one you were talking about before, that's got 22 inches between the front and the back pin. Let's see how he goes for it. Good result. Yes, quite a distance there, and you can see that ball turn markedly as it hit the pins for Paul Madden. Well, Paul Madden now up on the even number numbered lane. There's a little bit of psyching going on here. Quite often you'll make the bowler go on the right-handed lane first, and sometimes you'll make him wait while you go up. Paul took advantage of it and got another strike. David sneaks up to the foul line at quite a pace, and that's the best ball he's had. Yes, an excellent shot by David Wield that time, right in the pocket, all the pins into the pit area, and David very pleased with himself after that shot. Still 12 the difference, both with strikes working. He'll be the first to get a double. It's the second time Paul's done that. He's in trouble on that lane. He's going to have to make an adjustment to his delivery stride and release point. He's not giving the ball enough air. Oh boy, that's caught up the leeway. There won't be 12 pins in it anymore after that one. And David counting his lucky stars after this. That pin spinning and finally knocks the 9 pin out as the last pin to go. Yes, Paul's in a little bit of trouble. He didn't give the ball enough air, as I said. That means that he didn't throw it out on the lane far enough. And it's running away towards the left of the head pin, but he's got the spare again. That's no mean feat, sparing the sleeper twice in succession on the same lane. David Wield now looking for another strike. If he strikes this first ball in the 10th, he could well take a first game lead in this 2-game match. Looking for a strike to take a lead. Well, that's a good result all the same. It could have been anything there. He may have left the baby split, the 3 and the 10 pins, but he's only got the 3 pin to go for. Paul Madden now, hoping to get a strike to take this first game lead. It's out the window. Only 8. And a very close match here. Both of them bowling a small 200 game at the moment. David's covered his spare. One of the things that impresses me about David is that unlike some of the other bowlers that bowl big hook balls, David bowls the same shot at his spares. He doesn't speed up, so that means he's able to keep his timing all the way through a series of games rather than going fast and going slow. He's able to keep the same pace, and that's, I believe, the right thing for a cranker bowler to do. Although there'd be some that would disagree with that. Well, here's a bonus ball for David Wield, and it's 9, gives him a 201. 201 game, a good start for him on this semi-final match. Paul Madden now looking for a strike. He'll take a 2-pin advantage into the second game with him if he gets it. It's only 7. And everyone's screaming their delight that David is the leader. 201 for Wield, 200. That was close. You don't get them any closer, as a matter of fact, do you?
No.
They don't go in half pins yet.
When you look at that incredible spare that David Wield scored during that game, you said was probably the most unusual spare you've ever seen. That could have been, you could say that was the one that made the difference. Yes,
it could well be the difference.
Of course, any of them could have been the difference, but that one was probably the most notable 1 pin that he knocked over during the course of the game. And as I said earlier, David Wield appears to be quite a favourite with the crowd here. Lots of personality. Tends to get a nice little smug look on his face when he's bowled well, but this is Paul Madden now.
Oh boy, and that was a good shot by Paul Madden. He was most unfortunate not to get a strike there. That was great delivery. Good opening for David. A pin the leader and you open up with a strike. That's a good morale booster. Have a look at this. Crash. All the pins into the pit. Well, Paul Madden should have had a strike, but he's got the 8 pin to go for. No worries with that. Got a great match here. Pin the difference. And a tie over these 2 games, total pinfall will necessitate a 2-frame playoff. No place for the faint-hearted. David will be hoping to ram home an advantage here. Opening up with a double would be nice indeed. Let's see how it goes. Oh boy. Couldn't have had a worse shot than that.
I think it's the worst he's bowled in this contest.
Yes, he didn't.
Today.
Yes, he didn't get the ball out on the lane, and it ran away from him and ran left. But Paul hasn't done too much better.
Pretty similar result, yeah.
Yes, he didn't capitalise on that. That's the time that the opponent really should smash in a strike. He should have taken a little bit more time and concentration on that one. That's a great spare. What a good spare by David Wield. Let's have a look at this. He's approached it in the right fashion, and he's got the desired result. The ball's got a tough one, and he's in trouble. Well, that makes a difference now.
I think that's the first open frame so far between these two.
Yes, it is. Paul had a split that he spared earlier on, the baby split, and that is the first open frame that we've seen. And after the first frame of this second game, David Wield's a 5-pin leader, but he's going to increase that lead because, of course, Madden opened that next frame.
Oh, a cliffhanger there.
Yes, that last pin just went, and look at this. What a nice guy. I can't speak highly enough of the men that have made the finals of this tournament this weekend. The 16 men, 16 women have shown great sportsmanship all the way through. Well, another
he
tough
can laugh
break.
about it.
Yes, well, it could have been anything too. He could be philosophically laughing at that. It could have been a big split. But 14 and 1, 15 pins now is the lead for David Wield after one game and 2 frames have been scored.
Bit of exchange with the crowd there that are supporting him so vocally. This is Paul Madden.
Yes, it's a measure of the man's ability to concentrate, that he's able to relax and crack jokes with the crowd and yet get up here now and put on a stony face and try to get a straight. Let's have a look at his face. Now, all concentration. Looking out there at the pins, and off he goes. He sent that one very wide, and that's he's going to have to take stock of the situation. He had a bad shot there before, but got the spare, and he's had another indifferent delivery on lane 16. Paul Madden. Oh boy, that's unfortunate. Those sort of hits here during the week have been either getting strikes or getting splits, and unfortunately for Paul, he left a split that time. 43 for him, plays 55, and that one was never really on for David Wield.
His first open frame.
Yes, I think you might have joned them there. They were going all right till you said that. I've been accused of it many times, Debbie. I don't see why you should get away with it. Oh, yes! Good ball. Let's have another look at that. Oh, what a great shot to the left of the 5-pin, and it slammed it right into the 10. We could see that over and over again. Fantastic ball by Paul Madden. That's put him right back in it. A pin the difference once again. And it takes a champion bowler to come back with a strike like that after the opponent's spared a split. Let's have a look at it. Sends the 5 into the 7, and that's the value of that big hooking ball. Well, Paul Madden up against it again. He just spared a split. Can he come back with a strike? He's making hard work for himself, but he's cut the deficit down to 3 pins. A pin after the first game, 201 to 200, and the score in this game, 63 in the 4th for David Wield, 61 for this man on the screen, Paul Madden. So 3 pins overall. Couldn't be much closer.
Basically, this is just one big game played over 20 frames, really, in some senses. Of course, it's just total. Oh.
Yes, that's right. A 20-frame game. 70 now in the 5th frame for Paul Madden. He had a go for it, of course, and the ball just failed to meet that front pin.
That's another one of the open frames that I'm being held responsible for, I suppose.
Yeah. I think they'll blame themselves when they look at it again. But David Wield now. A strike in the 6th. That's a double. Let's have a look at this one. It crossed over the head pin, but the pin came off the side wall and took the 6-pin last. Paul Madden really doing it tough at this stage. And his release that time, I noticed, rather strange. He got up to the foul line a little bit off balance, a little bit out of timing, and the ball fall out of his hand. You notice that it slid a long way before it started moving towards the pocket, the 1-3 pocket on the pin deck. And he's got a tough spare here. But he hasn't been doing too well in this game. He's had 2 open frames and 3 spares. Make that 4 spares. And David Wheel's had 2 spares, 3 strikes, and only 1 open. So that's where the difference lies. And Wield, with another strike, will be a leader by about 24. There's Madden's score of 70 in the 5th. Wield could be as much as 93 in the 5th frame. After this shot, he is.
He was really egging that one along after delivery. You can see.
Yes.
Here, yes.
Well, that's called pulling the string and then punching out. And he'd like to do just that. He's had 3 in a row already, strikes. Paul Madden now letting it slip away from him. He didn't lift that one either.
Seems to be the same problem with each first delivery now.
Yes, he's rushing the foul line, I think. And that doesn't allow you time to lift the ball out on the lane. It tends to drop out of your thumb and fingers. And that could well be Paul's problem, rushing the foul line. An unusual grip, too. There with his forefinger seemingly inside the ball. I'm not sure whether he holds it like that and whether there is a 3-finger bowling ball there as opposed to the normal 2 fingers. You can see David there just with the middle 2 fingers in the ball and the thumb. Can this be another strike? Would have liked it, but well, that's a good result all the same. And he's a long way ahead now, about 36 pins after 1 game and 6 frames. We're in the top of the 8th for Paul Madden. He's going to have to start a string of strikes going right at this point of time, I would think. That's one of them. That helps close the gap, probably a pin or 2, but it gives him a chance to start a string of strikes. That's what he needs right now. Still 36 pins the difference in the 7th frame between the 2 of them, but Paul Madden has a strike working in the 8th, and if he can strike all the way here, that'll give him a game of 197, and certainly will put David Wield under a great deal of pressure in his closing shots. This one's got to be a strike. He needs one. I think that's curtains for Paul Madden.
Yeah, I think he realises it too. Oh, he came back shaking his head.
Oh, well, I think we've seen the winner of this match there.
David Wheel's just going from strength to strength.
Paul Madden's 9th frame spare, but a long way behind, 36 pins. I think that strike by David Wield is enough to win him this match. He'd like to go out in a flourish, though. This is his 10th frame. Ran away from him again, but that's a 7 count all the same.
Paul Madden.
Paul's had a poor game there. Only 1 strike in the game and a couple of open frames. He's been sparing well, but David Wheel's had 5 strikes out of 9 shots prior to this 10th frame, and that's the difference in this match. And even though he's opened the 10th frame, he's gone on to win that game, a score of 190 and a 2-game total of 391. Paul Madden still to bowl his bonus ball. He'll finish with a score of about 366, so a 25-pin win then to Paul Madden. To David Wield, sorry. Paul almost had a win by default. that's the end of Paul Madden's tournament. He finishes in 3rd place again. No disgrace in that. 27 pins in arrears at the end of the 2-game series. 391 for this man, David Wield, and 364 for the loser, Paul Madden. Paul takes 3rd, and a cheque for what?
$1,700.
Not too bad.
No, not to be sneezed at all.
Well, the men are bowling in this grand final match for a total of $5,400 in cash and a trip to the Bowling World Cup for the winner of the game. $2,200 to the loser, $3,200, and a trip to Copenhagen for the World Cup for the winner.
So David Wield goes on now to play against Len Hogg later on. So he has his warm-up.
And David taking the option to bowl a couple of practice shots. And Len Hogg now, the Australian Open champion, the New South Wales Open champion. He won the GIO New South Wales Open here at Rushcutter Bowl last weekend. No one has ever managed to win the double back-to-back, where you run the New South Wales Open as a prelude to the South Pacific Classic. He won it last weekend with a great average of 199. And he's got a string of titles that would take ages to go through, but the Australian Open of last year probably is the one that he treasures most prior to this particular match this afternoon. There's some of them now. The BCBA Masters and the New Image Open in 1985. He's won a couple of BCBA titles this year, and his league average is 201. So his average in league about 4 pins better than David Wield, but I'd say in this match they'd be pretty well evenly matched.
Yes, I don't think that sort of thing really counts when you're going into this kind of match. It's all, as we were saying before, the concentration, the nerves on the day.
Well, that's the opening shot now, and David Wield has started with a strike. He can't start any better, and what a great confidence booster that will be for this man from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. He's bringing great honour and glory up there with his exploits around the tournaments in Brisbane. And, well, there's the top seed opening up with a split. Not a pleasant start for Len Hogg. Some of the other placings in the men's division, Terry Wenban of New South Wales finished 4th, and what a barnstorming finish he put on. He had 255 and a 244 in 2 of his last 3 games. Eric Thompson of Victoria finished 5th. Tom Curry finished 6th. Jim Ferguson was next. And then Chris Batson finished 8th in the men's division.
So that's an open frame for the top seed for the men's competition. Len Hogg, he was the top qualifier. David Wield having just won through in the semi-final for the right to contest this final. And Steve, what sort of advantage or disadvantage, or maybe I shouldn't be talking about disadvantages at all, as we see another strike, 2 strikes in a row from David Wield, having to back up for the second game straight after a semi-final. What sort of effect does that have? Well,
I think it's probably an advantage because he's already bowled a couple of games. He's now been able to become accustomed to the situation that he's in. And Len Hogg has come in cold. He's only had a couple of shots practice on this pair of lanes. He has been bowling off camera on another pair of lanes here at Rushcutter, so he would be warmed up, but he wouldn't be attuned to the situation that he's in now. So I think David's probably got an advantage in this first. He's come in on a high, that's game, for sure. And come in on a high and won the crowd's support in the process. That's right. He's got everything working for him at the moment. But Len Hogg is a popular bowler and also an exemplary attitude to the sport, and that's why he's just come good in the last couple of years. Used to be known as a bit of a firebrand down in Victoria, but he's fixed up his mental game, and of course now he's made the final of the South Pacific Classic. 2 strikes and a 9.
And
Len Hogg, this man now already 20 pins in arrears, courtesy of David Wield's 2 opening strikes and a 9 count. Very methodical bowler is Len Hogg, and that's a great strike by Len Hogg. We'll have another look at this one as it hits the pins. The 6 pin knocks the 10 away.
It's caught the tail end of David Wield's spare for the 3rd frame.
Yes, no troubles for David Wield there, shooting way across the lane. Good thinking by him. And Len Hogg, let's have a look at his profile now, his style. A tall man, very tall, very methodical. Good push away. It's parallel with the line when he lets the ball go, and that's the result of an excellently executed shot.
Second strike in a row for Len Hogg.
That's closed the gap to about 10 and puts Wield under pressure. And that's how he's responded to the pressure. Well, pressure's a funny thing in 10-pin bowling. I don't mean funny laughing style. It's a bit cruel sometimes. There's a man who's had a strike bowled at him, and instead of just taking a little bit more time and relaxing and letting the arm swing smoothly and sweetly through, he's tried to crank the ball a little bit more, give it a bit more than he needed to, and of course it's crossed over to the left of the head pin.
It's like tension and pressure in any of the sports which rely heavily on technique. It often, oh, got it. I was about to say the tension often actually restricts someone's technique or affects it adversely.
Yes, that's right. There's pressure does funny things to people. I suppose it's all a matter of how positive they are in the mind. Well, here's a man who's really positive in his mind in the last week. Let's see if this is another one. He's gone for a run across to the right, and that's 3 strikes in a row for Len Hogg. He's cut the deficit to 8 pins, but he's got a double working, and he will probably be the new leader after his next shot. Well, David Wield should have learned by that first one. He'll go back and sit in the chair now and think about this. Len Hogg, meanwhile, in a world of his own, and that's what champions have to do in 10-pin bowling. You have to play your own game. If you do the best you can and still lose, well, you just weren't good enough on the day.
It's very much like say golf in that respect, isn't it? It's you against the actual game, and whoever finishes up with the best score is the winner. It's not actually head-to-head competition in that sense.
That's right. Well, 2 games this match, and Len Hogg opened up with a split, then a spare, and he's come back with 3 strikes since then, and every one of them been right in the strike pocket. Let's have a look. Good push away again. Excellent follow through, and he's gone for a run again. What a strike! 4 strikes in a row for Len Hogg, the new leader in the 4th frame by 4, and he's got a double working as against Wield's open frame just a moment ago. That's the way to come back.
So that's the 3rd strike for David Wield, but his first 2 came in the 1st and 2nd frames, and we've had to wait until the 6th frame to see a repetition from Wield, who had a little bit of a slump in frames 3 to 5.
Well, I think the pressure that Hogg's applied put him into that slump, and now he might have got out of it.
Len Hogg going for 5 big ones in a row.
Oh, look at this. Gee, bowls a fast ball there. Those pins flying around the pin deck, but unfortunately for him, nothing came near the 10-pin. Well, Wield can catch back up a little now. He needed a double to do that. So he's about 20, wasn't it amazing? 20 pins behind, ahead a moment ago, now 20-some pins behind, just a few frames later. Spare in the 6th frame for Len Hogg, 138. Wield needs to spare this 5-pin. Sitting in the middle of the deck. No trouble. 24 pins behind is David Wield from the top seed for the tournament, and the current Australian Open champion, Len Hogg from Geelong.
He's not looking to the heavens for assistance there. That may be what it looks like on your screen, but he's actually looking up at the scoreboard, which is, yes, there it is, just above him.
Well, actually, he may be looking up there. He's 24
Could be a bit
pins
of both,
behind.
I suppose.
I think so. Let's have a look at Hogg. He's right in there. Gee, he's bowled a good game so far.
Certainly seems like the Almighty's operating the scoreboard for Len Hogg anyway.
That's a good shot. Excellent ball by David Wield. We've got a very good match here. 23 pins the difference now. He's cut the deficit down by a pin, but importantly, he's got a strike in the 8th frame. Hogg now going for a corner pin, shooting way across the lane. Very methodical bowler. In fact, both of them look quite at ease with the situation.
I've got to ask, Steve, what's the little green
oh, that's a
implement there? Or?
That's a bit of funny stuff. It dries the hands.
Right.
It's sort of a new sort of hand dryer. And it takes a champion effort to come back with a double when you're 24 pins behind, and that's just what David Wield's done. Well, now they pressure back on Len Hogg. Topsy-turvy game here. Hogg A little unfortunate to leave 2 10 pins on his last 2 shots, and he's really driving the ball down there, driving it into the pocket. We'll have another look at that one. Look at this, driving the ball out to the right hand of the lane, and it's coming back beautifully as it nears the pins. 2 great exponents of the sport here for the first time.
David Wield taking a couple of good deep breaths before he heads in here for possibly strike 3. No.
Tough break then for David Wield. He would have liked that one. But good effort. Don't hit the ball any better than that. Unfortunately, though, the 10 pin. Well, Len Hogg, first ball in the 10th. He'd love to get a strike now. Give him a big lead going in. He's looking good. He's carried the 4 pin. Another strike for Len Hogg, and we're seeing a big game here. Certainly belying the conditions that we've been faced with all week. Very low scoring tournament this year. 197, I think, is Hogg's average in the tournament, a little below his normal league average. And David Wield this week has averaged 194, and they're making a mockery of those averages with some big games here. Len Hogg could go all the way for a 237. Let's see what this one is. Driving the ball out towards the pins. He was in the wrong gear that time.
He shrugged as if he hadn't expected anything good from that ball.
Well, Wield's put up a good effort, and that's a 201 game. That's the same score that got him to a lead in the first match against Paul Madden. And Len Hogg, that's a surprising miss. Len completely out of timing when he went up for that, and we wonder, as we come into the second game of this match, whether those 2 pins that Len Hogg just missed will cost him the match. He's 22 pins ahead at the moment. And David Wield, a little bit of psych there, offering the start to Len Hogg to send him on his way. And a couple of good games there. 223 for this man, Len Hogg, and 201 for his opponent. Well, another 10 pin, but that was a fortunate one. That was, yes, very iffy-butty. Oh, David, haven't learnt yet to take a little more time. He didn't get a strike, and David really should have put one in there. Oh, dearie me. Len Hogg has fallen in a hole the last couple of shots. 2 big misses, a 9 miss to open up game 2. Not a good start. But he's lost nothing.
Frame. Yes, so both players' first frame of their second game just come out with a 9 pin total.
Quite often I've been spoken to by people who have watched the telecasts over the years, and they say, gee, they bowl lousy games on television. We could do as well as that. Well, the bowlers in Australia are not professionals. They're amateur bowlers. There are no professional bowlers as such. And they're weekend bowlers. They play leagues during the week, and they bowl weekend tournaments, the Grand Prix Series in New South Wales, the BCBA tournaments in Victoria. And they're not doing it for a living, so it's to be expected that they don't get strikes and spares every time they let shots go.
Sure, I was talking to Jeanette Baker-Flynn before this game too, and she said that she often gets the same comments. People look at a total and say, gee, you know, I go along once a week and I can bowl that too. She said it's like looking at someone putt in a golfing tournament, you know, the last hole under pressure. You know, often you could do it too, but not on the last hole of the US Open. Or
that's right.
Or, you know, like basketball. She gave the example, her husband being a basketball coach, standing on the free throw line. It looks easy, and you could probably go down and stand at your local court and do it quite easily most times. But under game pressure, very different prospect altogether.
Certainly is, and we're seeing a couple of champion strikes there from Len Hogg.
2 in a row.
Back. And this one really high on the nose, but carrying the pins very well. I think David Wield has replied beautifully, and that's the best strike we'll see all day. We'll have another look at that one by David Wield. Crash. You really got to hate the pins too if you're, well, you've got to do that. If you don't hate them, they'll stand up and laugh at you more often than not, I'm afraid.
I guess the worst thing is when they don't stand there, they just dance around and laugh at you. That's probably even more aggravating.
Yes, and that was an example of it then. Len Hogg leaving the 10-pin. Oh, he's turned.
There's the one that danced around and laughed back.
Yes, it certainly has. That pin must have hurt us, and it's the 5-pin. It only just picked it up too. It moved it probably a couple of inches off its normal spot and turned the logo around twice. Well, that was extremely unfortunate, but Len's made a good adjustment there, and he's come back with a spare. He missed that one in the first frame. Wield, of course, opening 2 frames. He's in a bit of trouble now. In fact, 42 pins worth of trouble after the 3rd frame. Both of them with spares working in the 4th, but Len Hogg now looking for his first ever South Pacific Classic Championship, and what a fantastic 12 months this man's had. The Australian Open, the New South Wales Open. He's won 2 titles in Victoria this year. And now only frames away from winning his first chance to represent Australia in the Bowling World Cup.
David Wield.
That's the only thing that can stop him, and David Wield has picked up 2 of his pins in arrears. Virtue of that strike there. Well, Len Hogg's got 2 pins to go for, not easy ones either. But he's covered it well. Put it to the left of that front pin, the pin number 6, and covered it without any problems. That's quite a missable spare.
Right, so this is the 6th frame now for David Wield.
Oh boy, just choking a little bit there as he let the ball go. He's got to let the ball swing freely, and he's not. He's trying to give the ball a bit too much action.
That tension again, probably constricting the style.
Oh, beautiful shot under pressure.
Not in that
Len
case.
Hogg. Len Hogg's come back with a strike. Oh dear!
He likes those trick spares, doesn't he?
Oh, he's got a smile on his face, but his heart would be pumping at 1,000 miles an hour after that one. Oh, dearie me. It's lucky that pin had another coat of paint this morning.
That's how David Wield spared the 6th frame. Len Hogg now coming up for the 7th.
Ooh, could have been nasty, but he's got a 40-pin lead. He's got a little bit of room to play with there, but he would have liked to put a head on that, I'm sure. Good result. He's still alive. It's not over yet.
7th frame strike for David Wield.
A lot of money riding on this. The loser, as we said, gets $2,200. The winner, $3,200. $1,000 the difference. Those pins are worth a lot of money. Still 40 pins the difference. We've been that way since 3 frames ago. 116 for Len Hogg in the 6th frame, 98 for David Wield in the 6th frame. Wield has a strike working. Looking for a double. He's got it, and that was a great shot by David Wield to keep his hopes alive in the 8th frame. Have a look at this one. Fantastic shot. And he's calculating the score. What do I need? Well, I can tell you, David, you need another strike on top of that one, mate. And champion that he is, coming back with another deep pocket hit, Len Hogg, but his lead now cut into the 20s. He's about 28 or 29 pins ahead now. And he's in the bottom of the 8th. He's got the 10 pin to go for. He missed one earlier in the game, and he's going to take his time on this. Taking his time this shot. Got to get the ball out on the lane. That's the way. A spare safely for Len Hogg, and he now feeling the pressure as David Wield applying the screws. 2 strikes in a row for Wield. Needs a 3rd. Tension in Rushcutter Bowl. 1,000 people here. You could hear literally a pin drop. Will we hear 10 drop? Yes, we do. That's closed the gap. Closed it to 29 with 2 strikes. A strike in the foundation frame 9th. And boy, is he happy with himself. Look at this one. No worries at all.
9th frame coming up for Len Hogg.
Hogg now under the pressure. Oh, and he's come back brilliantly with a strike there. That could have been a double. The crowd all calculating. What does he need? What's the difference? 22 after the first game. This match so close, it's taking me a bit of time to work out, but I can tell you that David Wield needs a strike right now. Looking for a strike. Oh, boy. Well, that's the end of that. But what a great comeback by David Wield. And Len Hogg goes on to win the South Pacific Classic. He can't lose now, and what a great performance we've seen from him. 2 weekends in a row, the first man ever to win back-to-back titles in 1 week, and a great spare to finish for David Wield. That gives him 175 in the 9th frame, and we've seen a man there who's come of age this afternoon. Len Hogg in profile. 2 strikes in the 9th and 10th. Can he finish with another? It's another 200 game. It's a small 200, 203 if he can get the spare. And David Wield will finish with a score after this bonus ball of 195. 195 and 201, a 396 series. Nothing to be ashamed of there, David, and congratulations for a 3rd place finish to the Sunshine Coast's David Wield of Queensland. Well, there's the new South Pacific champion, Len Hogg. 203 and 223, a series of 426, and a win by 30 pins to Len Hogg. Well, he's going to represent Australia now in the Bowling World Cup in Copenhagen, Denmark in October. And that'll be his first time in the tournament. There's the dates, the 12th to the 19th of October. It means that he's going to miss the Australian Championships in Canberra, but he'll have his mind on much higher things, I'm sure, when he represents Australia for the first time ever in this tournament. Well, we're crossing now to an interview with Debbie Spillane and Len Hogg.
Len, you had to sit out and watch the semi-final between Madden and David Wield. What did you do during that time?
I just went up, threw a few balls on the practice pair, and I really threw the ball really well in practice, and I was extremely confident. I was stroking the ball excellent today.
So you weren't actually watching too much of that first game?
No, not at all, no.
Do you think it's an advantage to be able to just collect your thoughts and go in and play the winner of the semi-final?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. Yeah, you've got that break. It's not so much pressure on you. You've only got to win 1 game, 2 matches, so it's quite easy, actually, I think.
You think? Well, having said all of that, you still got off to a pretty slow start. Opened the first frame of the first game. Did that worry you?
I think with the lights, the lanes actually dried a fraction, and different to the practice pair, and I just shifted the ball to sound. It was quite all right. Got going all right.
That string of strikes starting around about the middle of the first game, do you think that's what wrapped it up for you?
Oh, I'd say it give me a bit of a break on Dave, and always makes it very hard to get the strikes back once you've got him up there.
He seems like a bit of a fun competitor.
Oh, really good guy. Good to go out with, and he bowled rather well. It was good effort by Dave.
We were talking during the game about the little bit of green, whatever it is that you've got in your hands. You might give us a look.
Oh, it's only it's a sweat compound type of article, I don't know, but it dries your hands up quite well, especially the lights and that. It gets very hot out here.
Yeah, I thought it might have been a green rabbit's tail or something, a rabbit's foot, but it's not. No. Okay, well, congratulations. Thanks very much.
Good, thanks, Deb. Thanks very much.
Well, thanks, Debbie, and Leanne Henry, our official